You've probably seen them everywhere on social media, in betting groups, maybe even whispered about in sports bars. These magical betting strategies that promise guaranteed wins, sure odds, people call them, foolproof systems, money printing machines. But here's what nobody wants to tell you, and I mean nobody, because there's serious money on the line keeping this information buried. Three strategies are absolutely destroying bettors right now, wiping out their entire bankrolls, crushing their dreams of financial independence through sports betting. And the worst part, most people don't even know they're following them until they're completely broke. I'm talking about strategies that have bankrupted thousands of bettors worldwide, strategies that bookmakers actually want you to follow because they know exactly how to exploit them. And today we're pulling back the curtain on all three. The information you're about to hear comes from an insider. His name is Angelo, and he works for one of the biggest betting companies in the industry. We're keeping the rest of his details anonymous for obvious reasons. His job, his location, everything except his first name stays locked away. But what has he revealed about how these sure odds systems actually work? It's going to change how you think about betting forever. Angelo sat down and explained exactly how bettors are being systematically destroyed by three specific strategies. Strategies that sound brilliant on paper, but destroy you in reality. These are sophisticated traps designed by people who understand human psychology better than anyone else. And bettors keep falling into them over and over again, losing money that they'll never get back. Before we dive into exactly what these three strategies are and why they're absolutely devastating to your bankroll, let me be clear about something. This isn't about judging people who've lost money to these systems. Angelo saw this from the inside. He watched it happen day after day, and now he's breaking it down one strategy at a time. So buckle up, because what you're about to learn might just save you thousands of dollars, or it might shake your entire understanding of sports betting. Either way, you're not gonna forget this. The first strategy that's absolutely obliterating bettors is what Angelo calls the accumulator stacking system. Now, if you've been around betting for any amount of time, you've heard about accumulators. You know the deal. You stack multiple bets together and your winnings from one automatically roll into the next bet. The potential payout is absolutely massive. You put in $50 and suddenly you're looking at a potential return of $5,000, maybe $10,000. It sounds incredible, and that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Here's what most bettors don't understand. Bookmakers absolutely love accumulators. In fact, they love them so much that they sometimes give you slightly better odds on them to encourage you to build bigger and bigger stacks. This is the trap. Angelo explained that the mathematics behind accumulators is what kills people. When you are stacking 4, 5, 6 or more bets together, you're not just multiplying your potential winnings. You're multiplying your risk in a way that most people don't fully grasp. Let's say you're looking at 5 individual bets, each with a 50% chance of winning. That sounds like good odds for each individual bet, right? But when you stack them together, your combined odds of winning all 5 is not 50%, it's actually around 3%. That's right. Even though each individual bet has what looks like a decent chance, when you combine them, you're almost guaranteeing a loss. But here's where it gets really psychological. And here's where Angelo says the bookmakers are playing us like a violin. When you do actually win an accumulator, which does happen from time to time, the payout is so enormous compared to what you put in that your brain goes absolutely nuts. You've turned $100 into $3,000, maybe more. Your dopamine is through the roof, you feel like a genius, and that feeling is so powerful that it makes you forget about all the accumulator bets you've lost. The brain is biased toward remembering big wins and downplaying small losses. So you start thinking, okay, I've figured this out, I just need to keep stacking bets and eventually I'll hit another big one. This is exactly what the bookmakers want. Because while you're chasing that high, while you're stacking up bigger and bigger accumulators, you're throwing money at them that you will almost certainly never see again. Angelo mentioned something particularly devastating about accumulator betting that most people don't realize. The bookmakers actually track which bettors are using this strategy, and you know what they do? They use that information to adjust their odds more sharply against accumulator bettors. So when you're building your 5-team accumulator bettors, the odds you're seeing aren't actually the same odds that a regular bettor looking at those same 5 events would be getting. They're worse. Maybe slightly worse, maybe significantly worse. It's all algorithmic. The betting company software identifies that you're a heavy accumulator bettor, and suddenly your odds shift. You're getting a slightly weaker line than you should be getting. Over time, across hundreds of bets, this compounds into massive losses. What really caught my attention when Angelo is explaining this is something he called the near miss effect. In an accumulator, you might win 4 out of 5 bets. 4 out of 5. That's an 80% success rate on that particular ticket. But because one single bet failed, you get 0 payout, nothing, all that money you put in, gone. And the near miss is absolutely crushing psychologically. People keep coming back thinking I was so close that time, I just need to adjust my strategy slightly. But they don't understand that they were never actually close. The mathematics was always against them. Every single time they build that accumulator, they're fighting odds that don't work in their favor. Angelo also pointed out that accumulator bettors often use a technique called building doubles or doubles chains to try to protect themselves. So instead of picking 5 random teams, they're picking 2 teams with high confidence, letting that payout roll into the next 2 teams they're confident about, and so on. It feels safer. It feels like you're being strategic. But here's the problem. If you actually believe so strongly in these teams that you're confident enough to chain them together, then you should be betting them individually. You'd make more money. The act of chaining them together is basically you paying a hidden tax to the bookmaker for the privilege of betting in a way that statistically hurts you. And the bookmakers know this. They're counting on people doing exactly this. The psychological toll of accumulator betting is something Angelo emphasized really heavily. People chase losses with bigger and bigger accumulators. They are down $1,000, so they build a massive accumulator with even longer odds, thinking that one big win will get them back to even. But the longer the accumulator, the lower the probability of success. So they're actually responding to losses in exactly the way that guarantees they'll lose even more money. It's a trap that gets worse the more you chase it. And once you understand that the bookmakers have literally designed their systems to encourage this exact behavior, it's genuinely disturbing. They're not just taking bets. They are architecting systems that exploit human psychology and make it almost impossible for people to break even in the long term. The worst part about the accumulator stacking system, according to Angelo, is that it's completely legal and totally normalized. Nobody is getting in trouble for pushing accumulators. No regulators are stepping in. The bookmakers are openly advertising them, often with bonus promotions that make them even more attractive. Build a 5-team parlay and get a 50% boost or something similar. They're making it sound like a special offer when really they're just using an incentive to get you to bet in a way that statistically destroys you. And millions of people fall for it every single day. Now let's talk about what actually separates people who survive in betting from people who get completely destroyed. And this is where the second strategy comes in. One that Angelo says is even more insidious than the first. This is the chasing the live odds trap. Live betting, in-play betting, whatever you want to call it. It's the strategy of placing bets on games or events that are already happening. The match has started, the game is underway, and now you're looking at the odds shifting in real time based on what's happening on the field. This feels incredibly smart. You can see what's actually happening. You can adjust your bets based on reality rather than prediction. You're not guessing blindly. You have actual information, except you're not actually ahead. You're behind. And this is where the bookmakers have set up an absolutely brilliant trap Angela broke down how live betting odds actually work, and it's not what most people think. When you're looking at live odds during a game, you're not looking at objective, fair odds based on the true probability of something happening. You're looking at odds that have been specifically calculated to take money from people who think they have an edge. The bookmakers are using sophisticated algorithms that are analyzing the game in real time, yes, but they're also analyzing the betting patterns of people watching that game. They can see where money is flowing, they can see which teams are getting heavy action, and they adjust the odds to protect themselves. Think about this scenario. A team is down 2-1 with 5 minutes left in the match. You think they are definitely going to come back and equalize. It's a strong team, they've got time, it feels obvious. The bookmaker also knows that lots of people are thinking this exact thing, so they offer you attractive odds on that team to equalize. Maybe 2-1. Sounds great, right? But here's what you don't see. The bookmaker has calculated that if they give those odds, they're still favored to make money even if the team does come back. That's because they've adjusted the odds to such a degree that they're covering themselves either way. Either the team equalizes and the bookmaker loses that specific bet, but they've already taken money from 50 other people who thought the team wouldn't come back at worse odds, or the team doesn't equalize and they win clean. What really blew my mind when Angelo explained this is something called the gambler's hot hand fallacy in live betting contexts. During a game, you're watching events unfold, a team scores a goal. Now your brain immediately starts assigning probabilities to what happens next. They just scored, so they're on fire, they'll definitely score again. Or conversely, they just scored, so the other team will definitely adjust and lock it down. These narratives feel real when you're watching it happen, but the odds the bookmakers are offering you, they already factor in all of this. They're always one step ahead of your intuition. You're trying to outthink a sophisticated algorithm in real time while watching the emotional roller coaster of a game. You're already at a disadvantage. Angelo said something that really stuck with me about live betting. He said that from the inside, they can actually see how much money it generates for the bookmakers compared to regular pre-match betting. And the answer is staggering. Live betting generates disproportionately high losses for bettors because of the speed of betting. You're making dozens, sometimes hundreds of small decisions in a short period of time. Your bankroll management goes out the window, you're not thinking clearly, you're reacting emotionally to what's happening on screen, and every single one of those decisions is being made against odds that are specifically calibrated to hurt you. The real devastation of live betting comes from what Angelo calls micro chasing. You've lost a small live bet. Okay, no problem. It was just a small amount. But now you've got an edge. You've spotted in another live market. You bet again. You lose again. Now you've lost $200 total. And your brain is saying, okay, I just need one good live bet to make that back. So you get more aggressive with your next bet. And if you lose that one, the spiral begins. You're now chasing losses with increasingly desperate live bets, all of which are being offered at odds that don't actually favor you. The bookmakers literally don't care if you lose 100 or 1,000 on live bets. They're designed to win in volume, and they do. One specific aspect of the live betting trap that Angelo really emphasized is the illusion of control. When you're pre-match betting, you've made your bet, and then you basically wait. You might watch the game, but you're not actively managing your bet. It's out of your hands. But with live betting, you feel like you're constantly making active decisions. You're adjusting your bets based on new information. This feels empowering. It feels like you're in control. But here's the thing. You're not in control of anything except how quickly you give your money to the bookmaker. The game is still random. The outcome is still unknown. But now you've got the added challenge of making dozens of quick decisions under time pressure. And the bookmakers have literally designed the interface to encourage you to make more bets faster. The technical side of live betting also works against you in ways most people don't understand. There's something called odds movement that happens faster in live betting than anywhere else. You see an odd at 2 to 1 and it looks great, so you immediately click to place the bet. But by the time your bet actually registers on the bookmaker's system, the odds have already moved to 1 to 2. Your bet just didn't happen at the odds you thought it was going to happen at. Or sometimes it doesn't happen at all because the odds have shifted so dramatically. This is called getting caught out on your odds. And the faster you're trying to bet, the more likely this is to happen. You end up either not getting the bet you wanted or getting a significantly worse version of it. And this compounds over dozens of live betting attempts. Angelo also mentioned the phenomenon of what he called artificial urgency. The live betting interface is literally designed to make you feel like you need to act right now. There are countdown timers on some bets. There are notifications popping up about odds movements. There's the emotional energy of the game itself, creating a sense of urgency. And all of this is designed to make you bet faster and think less. When you think less, you make worse decisions. When you make worse decisions against algorithms designed to take money from you, you lose money fast. The most devastating aspect of live betting, according to Angelo, is that it's almost impossible to have a coherent betting strategy while you're doing it. A proper betting strategy requires patience, discipline, and sticking to a plan. But live betting demands the opposite. It demands speed, reactivity, and constant adjustment. These two things are fundamentally incompatible. So the moment you start doing live betting, you're abandoning the only thing that actually keeps bettors from getting completely destroyed. And once you've abandoned discipline, it's just a matter of time before you're wiped out. Now, if you think those first two strategies are brutal, the third one that Angelo revealed is arguably the most dangerous of all. This is the one that has destroyed more bankrolls, created more bankruptcy situations, and ruined more lives than anything else in the sports betting world. This is the system betting scam, the one that operates under 50 different names but works on the exact same principle. Get ready, because this one is gonna hit differently. The third strategy that's absolutely devastating bettors is something Angelo calls the fixed odds progression. And it's perhaps the most psychologically manipulative betting system ever created. You might know this system by different names. Some people call it the martingale for betting, others call it progressive staking, and some know it simply as the double down when you lose system. Whatever name you've heard it under, the principle is exactly the same, and it is absolutely ruthless. Here's how it works in its basic form. You place a bet at specific odds. Let's say you bet $100 at 2 to 1 odds on a team to win. If you win, great, you take your profit and start fresh. But if you lose, that's when the system kicks in. Now you double your bet, you bet $200 on the next event at the same odds. The logic is simple. If you keep doubling every time you lose, eventually you'll win. And that win will cover all your previous losses, plus give you a profit. It sounds mathematically sound. It sounds like a foolproof system, but it's not. And Angelo pointed out that this is exactly why it's so dangerous. The fixed odds progression system is a complete and utter disaster waiting to happen. And the reason is something that doesn't get nearly enough attention in the betting world: variance. Let's say you're doubling after every loss, starting with a $100 bet. You lose. You're now betting 200, you lose again, you're now betting 400, you lose again, you're betting 800, you lose again. You're betting 1600, you lose one more time, you're betting 3200. And if that loses, you're betting 6400. 7 losses in a row. You've now gone through your entire $10,000 bankroll. You started with a $100 bet, and after just 7 losses, you've got nothing left except, and this is the crucial part, the odds of getting 7 losing bets in a row aren't actually that low. With even mediocre bets, there's a very real chance you're gonna hit that streak. And when you do, you've done. What Angelo emphasized is that most people using this system don't understand variance well enough. They think, okay, these are good bets with a 60% win rate. What are the odds of losing 7 in a row? They do the math incorrectly and conclude it's extremely unlikely. But they haven't factored in that they're going to be placing hundreds of bets. If you place hundreds of bets, eventually that low probability 7 loss streak is absolutely going to happen. And when it does, it's going to wipe you out unless, and here's where people get really dangerous, unless they increase their starting bet size or get even more aggressive with their doubling strategy to try to protect themselves. The psychological component of the fixed odds progression system is where things get truly twisted. When you're using this system and you're on a winning streak, you feel invincible, you've doubled your money, then tripled it, the system is working, you're a genius, but your brain isn't accounting for the variance that's inevitable in any statistical distribution. You're in the up phase of a natural variance cycle, and you're attributing it to skill or perfect system, then the losing streak hits. And instead of recognizing it as normal variance, you panic. Now you're not just following the system, you're getting emotional about it. You might increase your bet sizes beyond what the system even calls for. You're trying to fight back against the losses, and this is where bettors really destroy themselves. Angelo saw this pattern constantly from his position inside the betting company. People would start with the fixed odds progression system with disciplined money management. They double after losses, follow the system. And for a while, it would work. They'd be up, they'd be feeling good, but then something would go slightly wrong, or they'd hit a bad patch, and suddenly they'd abandon the system. Now they're just doubling or tripling aggressively, trying to make back losses. And the bookmakers, they absolutely love this. They're seeing larger and larger bets coming from people who are now operating emotionally rather than systematically. It's a recipe for disaster. One specific thing Angelo explained about why bookmakers tolerate, even encourage, the fixed odds progression system is that it looks like a legitimate system on the surface. If you read about it in a betting guide or on a betting forum, it sounds reasonable. The math seems sound. The bookmakers don't have to do anything to stop people from using it. They just let human nature and variance do the work. People using this system will eventually hit a bad streak, panic, get emotional, and destroy themselves. The bookmakers don't have to lift a finger. They just collect the money. The financial mathematics of the fixed odds progression system is absolutely devastating when you actually map it out properly. Let's say you start with a $100 bet. Your winning bet pays you $100 profit. Great, but remember you need to double all the way back to profitability if you lose. So you got a $100 bet, then 200, then 400, then 800, and so on. By the time you get to 6 losses, you've already bet more than $5,000 total, all for the possibility of making a $100 profit if you get that 7th win. The risk-reward ratio is absolutely insane. You're risking enormous amounts of money for minimal profit. But here's where people really trick themselves. They think, okay, I understand that, so I'll just make sure I place disciplined bets that win more often. They'll say, if I bet on teams with a 70% win rate, then I'm much less likely to lose 7 in a row. And sure, mathematically they're right, but they're forgetting something crucial. Odds are not probability. If a team really does have a 70% chance of winning, then the bookmaker knows this. So the odds they are offering on that team winning are not going to be attractive. They're going to be reduced to the point where your expected value is still negative. You can't beat the bookmaker by just picking high probability bets and then using a progression system. The bookmaker doesn't care about your system. They've already accounted for it in their odds. Angelo pointed out something that really demonstrates how ruthless this system is. He said that the bookmakers actually have data on which bettors are using progression systems like this, and they specifically adjust their odds against those bettors. So you're not just fighting the normal house edge. You're fighting a modified house edge that's even more negative because the bookmaker knows you're using a progression system They know that eventually you're going to get desperate and increase your bet sizes. They know that eventually you're going to hit a losing streak. So why should they give you fair odds? They just tighten the odds slightly, making your expected value even more negative, and then they wait for the inevitable. The accumulative psychological damage of the fixed odds progression system is something that probably doesn't get talked about enough. People using this system live with constant anxiety. They are always thinking about the next bad streak. They're always worried about hitting that loss limit that wipes them out, and they're constantly trying to make back previous losses. This is not a healthy way to approach betting or money management. And yet, this system is actively promoted in so many betting communities online. People are recommending it to each other as a sure thing that can't fail. It's not a sure thing. It absolutely can fail, and it does constantly. What really struck me when Angelo was explaining this is how the system creates a false sense of security. You use it, you have a few good weeks, you're up money, and you think you found the edge. But you haven't found the edge. You've just been lucky. You've been in a positive variance phase. And the moment the variance swings the other way, which it will, you're going to get absolutely destroyed. The only thing that's going to save you is if you accept that you haven't found a system that beats the bookmakers. You haven't discovered some secret edge. You've just been experiencing temporary luck. And the moment you accept that, you can stop using this progression system and actually start thinking about betting rationally. Angelo also explained that bookmakers actually use the data from fixed odds progression users to refine their own algorithms. They can see exactly when someone is using a progression system. They can see the pattern, and they use this information to optimize their odds offerings more aggressively against progression system users, so the system gets worse over time. The more popular it becomes, the more that bookmakers adjust their odds against it, and the more devastating it becomes for anyone trying to use it. It's a downward spiral that started the moment the system was ever created. The worst outcome of the fixed odds progression system, according to Angelo, is that it attracts people who can least afford to lose money. It attracts desperate people, people who've already lost money and are looking for a way to make it back fast, people who are in financial difficulty and think this system is their ticket out, and instead of helping these people, it absolutely destroys them. They lose more money than they ever would have otherwise. They go further into debt, and the system is actively promoted to them through betting forums and betting communities as this secret that the casinos don't want you to know. It's predatory marketing aimed at vulnerable people, and it's happening constantly. So we've talked about 3 strategies that are absolutely devastating bettors. These 3 strategies have something in common. They're not secretly designed by some shadowy conspiracy. They're openly promoted. They're actively used by millions of bettors, and they're all, without exception, designed to take money from people. The thing that Angelo wanted to emphasize more than anything else is that understanding why these strategies are dangerous isn't the same as having the discipline to avoid them. He's watched people learn exactly why the accumulator stacking system is bad and then immediately go back to building accumulators because they just had a feeling about 5 teams. He's seen people completely understand the mechanics of the fixed odds progression system, understand that it will eventually fail, and then use it anyway because they were desperate to make back losses. Knowledge alone doesn't protect you. You need discipline, you need acceptance that the odds are against you, and you need to be honest with yourself about what you can and can't control. I want to leave you with something else that Angelo made very clear during our conversation. The bookmakers aren't doing anything illegal or unethical by offering these bets and these systems. They're not cheating, they're not rigging outcomes, they're just offering bets where the expected value is negative for the bettor and positive for them. That's the business model. That's how it works. The bookmakers are actually more mathematically skilled than 99% of bettors. They've studied statistics and probability at a level that most bettors haven't. And they've designed the entire system around the knowledge that over time, through volume, they will make money and bettors will lose it. Understanding this is the first step toward betting more responsibly. So what should you do with this information? First, if you're using any of these three strategies, stop immediately. Not after one more round, not after you make back your losses. Now, just stop. Recognize that you're fighting a battle you can't win with these approaches. Second, be honest with yourself about whether you should be betting at all. If you're chasing losses, if you're betting money you can't afford to lose, if you're using betting as a way to make money rather than as occasional entertainment, then you need to step back. Seriously. These strategies aren't the only way people get destroyed betting. People destroy themselves with simple one-off bets by being irresponsible about bankroll management and bet sizing. The strategies we talked about just make it happen faster. Third, if you're going to bet, do it with a long-term perspective and a focus on finding actual value. This doesn't mean you'll beat the bookmakers. It probably means you'll still lose money over time because the odds are structured against you, but it means you lose more slowly and you lose with a level of control and discipline that prevents catastrophic losses. You need a strict bankroll management system. You need to bet fixed percentages of your bankroll, not fixed amounts. You need to track everything. You need to know your expected value on every bet you place. And you need to be willing to walk away when value isn't there, even if you feel confident. The most important thing that Angelo wanted me to emphasize is that the betting companies are not your enemy. You are your own enemy. You are going up against algorithms and mathematical models that are centuries ahead of your intuition. You're betting on outcomes that are unpredictable. And you're using strategies that are specifically designed, whether intentionally or not, to exploit psychological weaknesses. The bookmakers don't need to cheat. They just need to wait. They need to offer you bets where the math is in their favor, let you think about it, and then watch you take those bets. Over time, the math wins. Over time, you lose. That's not a secret conspiracy. That's just how probability works. Now, here's the thing. I know that after hearing this, a lot of you are probably thinking one of two things. Either you're thinking, okay, I'm never betting again, or you're thinking, yeah, I understand, but my situation is different. I've got a good feeling about these bets. And if you're thinking that second thing, I want you to know that you're not alone. Everyone thinks their situation is different. Everyone thinks they're smarter than the mathematical model. And almost everyone is wrong, but I also want to acknowledge that some of you listening to this are probably already down significant money. You've lost real money to these strategies or similar ones. And listening to this probably feels frustrating or painful or maybe even angering. You might be feeling like you want to make it back, like you need to take bigger risks to recover from previous losses. I'm going to ask you to resist that impulse just for today, just for this moment. Think about what you've heard here today, about how these systems work against you, and make a commitment to do something different. Just one small thing different. Maybe it's refusing to build accumulators for a week. Maybe it's staying away from live betting for a month. Maybe it's just doing the math on the fixed odds progression system and seeing exactly what your breaking point is. Start small, build from there. I want to hear from you. I genuinely do. Have you been caught by any of these three strategies? Are you using one of them right now? Are you thinking about using one? Comment below and let me know what's been your experience with betting. Have these strategies cost you money? What system are you using? There might be people going through exactly what you're going through, and your comment might be the thing that helps them see the trap before it's too late. Also, if you found this video valuable, if you learned something new about how these strategies work and why they are dangerous, then please smash that like button, share this video, send it to your friends who are betting. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're constantly releasing insider information about how the betting industry actually works, how bookmakers think, what traps you need to avoid. All right, that's what we've got for you today. 3 strategies that absolutely will bankrupt you if you let them. Now you know, now you understand. So what are you going to do with this information? That's the real question. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Let me know. Thanks for watching.